The following presentation was recorded at the 2025 Southeast Linuxfest in Charlotte, North Carolina. It is licensed under a Creative Commons license. For more information on the Southeast Linuxfest, visit www.southeastlinuxfest.org. Come join us next June.
All right, so I'm going to get started. Welcome to Guarding Your Digital Treasure. My name is Shelby. I'm the Technical Marketing Manager at Bitwarden. I give private trainings and public demos to people who want to learn more about how Bitwarden works, both from a user perspective and from the admin side. Also, technically Vice President at Shift Systems, pretty much do whatever Matthias doesn't feel like doing because it's a project and not an actual company. I've worked at OffSec, TryHackMe, and some local MSPs, so I've had some experience both on the security engineer side and the help desk side, trying to help people with their password hygiene and prevent some of those threat surfaces from being a problem at companies. I have my certified ethical hacker and my CISSP. This is kind of our agenda for today. I'm going to start out by talking about some password practices that we see out in the wild that can be mitigated. Then we'll talk about how to mitigate those as we go down. Talk a little bit about password managers. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but we'll talk about how to choose the best option for what you are looking for. And then we'll have Q&A at the end. So what we're seeing out in the wild for those perilous password practices, before we get too far into it, I have a little bit of trivia. Whoever can get the answer right, we have a gift card to the Bitwarden shop. So if you want to shoot up your hand and answer the question, what is the most used method for storing credentials? Yeah, memory. So we did a survey. This is an old one from 2024. We did another survey for this year, but it was more based on different generations and password practices. So the one from 2023, where do you store most of your passwords? And most people were just remembering them. The human memory is very fallible, so we're having a lot of reused passwords, things that are easy to guess. We don't want to have that when we're actually using our banking password. We want to have something super strong and secure. So having that in your memory isn't great because nobody can remember those complex passwords. Even passphrases are difficult to remember sometimes, depending on what you've got going on there. Otherwise, pen and paper is the next most popular option, better than, I guess, your memory or a CSV on your laptop, but still not great because if you're out and about or need that password somewhere and you're not physically at your desk, that can cause a problem. So this is an example from that 2025 survey where we surveyed millennials and all the different generations and how they manage their passwords at home. Again, the same thing. It's mostly memory, lots of pen and paper still, but this is kind of where it sits generation-wise based on this year's survey. So I mentioned password reuse. A lot of people are still reusing passwords. It's easy to remember the same version of the word that you're wanting to reuse everywhere. But when that password then becomes compromised or in a list somewhere, it's all of your logins, all of your credentials are now compromised. So we want to make sure that we're not using those passwords everywhere. But it is a habit that a lot of people are having issues breaking. Some risky habits that we see out in the wild too, using weak or personal info in your password. So your dog's name and the year, or my favorite is the season and the year. That's super easy to guess. Storing work passwords insecurely. Again, that's CSV on your desktop, or sticky note on a monitor is my favorite. I've seen that out in the wild when I was working at MSPs. Car dealerships are notoriously bad for that. Not using MFA. So having that extra layer of security people aren't doing. And then sharing passwords in plain text or insecure methods. That's another thing that we're seeing a lot of people still doing out there in the wild. So despite knowing that they're doing something risky, a lot of people are still doing it. They know it's not good practice, but they're still doing it anyway. So still using the same password, even though they know they shouldn't. It's still happening. So the knowledge is getting more available, but it's the behaviors that we're having issues breaking. So understanding those threat landscapes, phishing is one of the biggest ways that business email compromise and some of those breaches are happening. People will open up a phishing link, put their credentials into that fake login page, and especially if they're reusing passwords, now that threat actor has access to all of their accounts and can impersonate them and get into all that sensitive data. Credential stuffing, so using those passwords that might be out there in a list somewhere and trying to log into different accounts. Brute force attacks, again, trying to use those easily guessed passwords. Those are things that are happening out there that we're trying to mitigate and reduce that threat surface. So using password hygiene to make that better, what are 3 key practices that make up strong password hygiene, and why are they important? Another trivia that you can get a gift card if you answer. Nobody? Random passwords? I'm looking for 3 things from one person. So this is more like if you were just creating a password, what are 3 things that you can do? Yeah.
Typically, the upper lower number specials are dumb, and so use a single character class. And that's two. Blank source complexity.
Yeah. So not reusing, that's one. The complexity, and then MFA. Yeah. So if you're just creating an account, using those is going to have better password hygiene, even if you're not using a password manager, just to make sure that, again, not going to be something that's in a dictionary somewhere that they can use. Having that other layer of security with MFA. And then it's 5 p.m. My brain has stopped working. Yeah, all of those are good password hygiene practices. So your passwords are important. If people can get that information, they can access all of your information. Banking websites, anything that you have data stored. I mean, it's the keys to your kingdom. You need to use good password hygiene to protect your data, right? It's not just a thing you arbitrarily have to type in when you log into websites. Having those weak and reused passwords is like just leaving your front door open to your house. We want to make sure that we lock everything and secure it so that attackers can't get that data. Breaches have a lot more impact than just financial. Reputation is huge. You get popped by a data breach, you're going to be questioned on whether you're a trustworthy company because your data is not secure. So it's more than just, financial loss. Those data breaches ruin your peace of mind, your reputation. Identity theft is huge too. So making sure that we're mitigating those risks. So again, here's my slide. Unique passwords, strong and complex passwords, MFA, and then, the dedicated password manager so that you can utilize those password hygiene practices without trying. It just makes it easy. I mean, generally they have that like a generator so that you don't have to think about using those complexity requirements. Most people agree that the built-in password managers for browsers aren't necessarily as secure as a dedicated password manager just because it's tightly coupled to the attack vector. And then having that zero knowledge encryption is also handy so that your browser doesn't even have access to that information. So now that we talked a little bit about password managers, what are 3 important factors to consider when you're looking at a password manager? Anybody? Yeah.
For data
Just 2?
Do you want the gift card? One more you're getting. How to back it up? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, this cloud versus whatever.
Right. No, those are all valid. So the end-to-end encryption, making sure your data is secure no matter, if it's at rest or in transit. You want to make sure that the password manager doesn't have, or the company doesn't have access to your data. So that zero knowledge architecture is important. We don't want them to get compromised, and then all of our passwords are out there in the wild. MFA support, being able to add that level of security to your password natively. So having that MFA support. Platform and device. If you can't access it on the platform or the device that you need it, you're not going to use it. So you want to make sure that it's compatible with what you're trying to use. Autofill and auto capture. These things make it easy to use a password manager. If you don't have them, it's going to be more clunky. People aren't going to want to use it. So having those features are going to be important for most people. Secure sharing, so that we're not sharing things over plain text. Having those features built into a password manager makes it more likely people are going to use it. I mentioned the password generator. This makes sure you're meeting your password policies without trying. You just generate a password and use that password, and then it's good. Pricing and plans. This is important, especially if you're with an organization trying to sell your enterprise on a password manager solution. Why do I need it? I can just remember everything. Like, those are important key features that when you're talking to stakeholders, you need to have all of the information. Open source versus proprietary. There's a lot of stigma about open source, obviously. So having the code that you can audit yourself and have that just transparency into what you're using as a solution is nice. Not everything has that that's out there. So that's a consideration. Backup and recovery, you had mentioned. So making sure that you can back up all of your data that's in there stored. You don't want to lose access to something should that cloud go down. Or you forget your master password. What's the recovery options for that? Because that's kind of a big deal too. It's zero knowledge architecture. They can't help you at the password manager if you forget your master password. But what are my options? And then being able to automate those backups. And then finally, reputation and reviews. So if you go on to Reddit, because that's where everybody leaves the most honest review, is going to be the best, like, oh, there's a lot of people complaining about this. Is this a big deal to me? Like, do your homework. See if there's anything that's going to be a pain point for you that other people have mentioned. Just doing that due diligence, looking up reputation and reviews is going to be important as you're considering what option to choose for where you're going to store your data. So obviously, again, a little bit biased. I work for Bitwarden. So we have a built-in password generator. Your admins can turn on policies, so that way when you're using the generator, you don't have to think about it. It automatically checks those boxes for you. You can't uncheck them as a user, which makes it nice. So then you're always meeting those password policy requirements. Sensitive data protection. You can store and organize your passwords. You can share them amongst the department. Everything is stored securely. You can even manage permissions, so certain people only have access to certain items. Gives your admins a little more granular permission to give access to some of those sensitive things that might have been kind of just thrown out there in the office previously. Credit cards. I've seen a lot of people that have like a shared department credit card, and it's just kind of floating out there, the physical card, or they'll share it via Teams or Slack, the credit card number, and having a way to share that sensitive information in a place that's a little more secure is definitely helpful. Bitwarden just kind of works everywhere you want it to. So that's another positive key feature. Having access to all of your information, whether it's on your mobile device, your browser, dedicated desktop app, whatever, makes it just easier to use, so then you're more likely to keep everything secure. Also, the ability to send things ephemerally or just send sensitive files or text with a link to somebody that doesn't have an account, super helpful. Seen people send invoices, credit card information with that end-to-end encrypted, just like your vault. but you get to send that knowing that you have control over that information and it's not just out there in the ether. We also have Secrets Manager, which isn't my forte. I do mostly Bitwarden Password Manager demonstrations and trainings, but we do have a way for you to store your machine secrets and development information in Secrets Manager. It's easier to use than some solutions, end-to-end encrypted just like your vault, unlimited secret storage, and it's, again, open source, which is pretty important to a lot of people. But it keeps you from storing those secrets in plain text or in your code, so it gets a little bit better security practice in there. We just recently released Access Intelligence. It's not out to general availability yet. It's kind of in a preview mode, but we did publish a blog recently about it, which offers a little bit of control and visibility for admins to be able to see what's going on within the organization. So data breaches obviously are a big deal. So this is helping companies get a little more control over what their users are using for passwords in their organization. So we get visibility with reporting. Again, this is still very new. I'll share links and more details on Access Intelligence at the end of my slides. But just gives more context for admins to get a better visual of the security posture of the company. You can prioritize what applications are important. So if we want to make sure all of our developers are using those good complex passwords in like GitHub or whatever you're using for your business apps, we can prioritize those applications and monitor, alert, and remediate those threats. And then we also have phishing defense. So if a user clicks on a link and we've marked that URL as potentially dangerous, they'll get a notification telling them, hey, this has been marked as a phishing site. Please don't put your password in here. So this is just kind of a graphic that I pull off for our slide deck for the Access Intelligence. We released this at the RSA conference just a couple of weeks ago. So again, still very new. Lots of cool stuff happening there. This is a sneak peek of the dashboard. So it's available in the admin console. It helps those admins and employees take action on those items. So it's not just viewing it, you can actually action on these things. This is an example of the employee email notification. So you can, as an admin, mark something as, I want this employee to change this password. The user can then go in and view those and then change those passwords that are marked at risk. We also have in-app notifications. So they get those when they're trying to log in with those credentials that they need to change it. Just gives a little more visibility into what might be an issue. And then that advanced phishing blocker, like I mentioned. So it'll identify the phishing sites via browser extension, and then it will automatically redirect the user away from it and let them know that it's been blocked. And then it uses phishing.database as a repository to identify and block those phishing links. I think I talked super, super fast, but that will just give me more time to have any Q&A if we have any here. So lots of information out there on our website as far as what features, integrations, things like that, as far as Bitwarden goes. We have the Help Center, lots of really good knowledge articles there, how to do basic things like SIM integrations, or from a user standpoint, how to just add things into your vault. All kinds of cool stuff out there. Learning Center is more video training. So anything Password Manager, Secrets Manager, MSP-based videos out there too, so that you can share with your users or learn how to do something yourself. The best way to poke around and figure out whether it's a good solution is to start a trial. We offer full support if you're in your trial and you're trying to figure something out. Customer service can help you try to figure out what's going on with an integration or a feature, anything like that. Some more great resources, the community forums. This is where a lot of people will post questions. We have feature requests, all that good stuff out there on the community forums. A lot of our community is helping other people try to figure things out. So if you have a question, likely somebody else has already had that question or knows how to fix it. We have a lot of people that aren't even Bitwarden employees out there helping other people figure stuff out. So it's super cool community. But that is where also Bitwarden employees are out there answering questions as well. So you can interact with people directly from Bitwarden. Another cool resource, if it's not even Bitwarden related, have I been pwned? You can check your account to see if it's been exposed in a data breach. The health reports that are built into Bitwarden do use have I been pwned to check, which is super helpful as well. Again, Bitwarden has a lot of cool features. Those health reports will help you identify the weak and reused passwords straight from those reports as well. And then NIST guidelines for passwords, if you're wanting to have something to read. All right, any questions? Yeah.
Handle the storage retrieval of passkeys.
So the question was, can Bitwarden handle the retrieval of passkeys? And storage, yep. That is a good question. Yes, Matthias? Yeah. Okay. Do you want to elaborate? You know more of the technical, or that's my husband, by the way.
So Bitwarden has the ability to store a passkey. What'll happen is if you have the browser extension, when like authentic or whatever says register a passkey, it'll pop up and be like, hey, you want to add a passkey for this site? And then it'll show up. And then when you go to use the passkey, yeah, I do the same thing because some services are silly and don't let you have multiple passkeys for the same service, which is stupid because you're supposed to have multiple security keys.
Following up on that, if you export everything, like export your vault, does that also save all your passkeys?
That one I'm not 100% sure on. Are you Googling it? I don't think it is in the export, to my knowledge. I can find out. That would be in the help center. Are you? Yeah, I know it. If it's not already a feature, I think it's on the roadmap. But I know we just released files and file attachments as being able to be exported. So one of the cool things about Bitwarden is we don't release a feature until we're confident that it's secure and it's functioning. And we get a lot of feedback on things. We have beta testers that will give us feedback and all that good stuff. So are you still Googling, Matthias? Okay. Okay.
This morning, I was.
Yeah, it's on.
It's on?
It's on.
Okay. Yeah, it's on. I logged into Google and it said, do you want to log in with your Google password, your Google passphrase? And it said you created one. I don't know when it was, the other day. It wasn't a Bitwarden message, but I'm wondering if that got stored in my Bitwarden. Bitwarden usually picks up on new passwords and logins, but I didn't know where to go to look for it or how that's supposed to work with Bitwarden.
It sounds like a Google prompt. So typically Bitwarden will try to disable your built-in browser password manager, but there are steps to sometimes have to go do that manually. Sounds like it was a Google message, but if you are logged into your vault, like the browser extension, and you sign into a password that Bitwarden doesn't recognize, it has to be unlocked and open in order to do this, but it will have a banner that pops up that asks if you want to store this. But it'll be like at the top of the page.
Okay. Typically when I log in for the first time in the morning, I'll log in to my Google account and then I'll open Bitwarden from the extension.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know if it was a Bitwarden message or not. I don't remember. I think I would have remembered saving it to Bitwarden, and I've got Bitwarden set to where it'll automatically find new logins, but I just didn't know what to do with it this morning. I just closed it and went on, and it worked fine. But I don't want to do that if I need to. If I need to update Bitwarden or something, can I go to a place that's got an existing passkey and get Bitwarden to recognize it?
So you're asking if you have a passkey that's like a YubiKey or whatever, can Bitwarden ingest that passkey? Like if you can dump the passkey from the YubiKey into Bitwarden?
Well, I've got Bitwarden set, and I always use Bitwarden, and I've got probably, I don't know, multi-hundreds of passwords and logins saved in Bitwarden, but I don't have any passphrases that I know of stored in Bitwarden. I don't know how it works, but I know it does.
Yeah, you can generate a passphrase. In the generator, there's an option to select passphrase versus password, but that sounds like it was done outside of Bitwarden. If you go to the web vault, so vault.bitwarden.com, you can see your whole vault and search. So if you're looking for something specific, and you can do that in the web vault too, or the browser extension, you can search in the search field if you're looking for something like, oh, I don't know if I saved this. You can search and it'll pull up everything that it matches.
Okay, so in my
Do you have a testing how you can show this thing?
What you're getting is the default thing when you log in with Chrome. That is the system one. And my suspicion is what you're getting is the default one that comes with Chrome, and it's being stored in the system keychain, or if it's a Mac, it'll be stored in the system keychain, and or on the actual Google servers if you log into Google, or on your phone. Most likely is what has happened. It's actually stored on whatever device you did it, whatever device it is.
okay, I don't mean to stump anybody, but I'm sure stumped.
Do you have your device with you? I'm at the Victoria Metrics booth hanging out. If you can,
I've got it in my room upstairs.
yeah, I'm here all weekend. If you want to come see me, I can help you try to figure it out.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I'll be at the Victoria Metrics booth all weekend.
Super.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Or at least I'll point you in the right direction.
Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.
Yeah. But yeah, we have a nice search feature in whatever you're using for a client that if you're looking for Adobe login, and then it'll pull up everything that matches either with the URL or the name of it, because you can rename them too. Any other questions? Yeah. Oh.
What are the company's views on things like Vault Warden and the self-hosted options that mimic the API and use the your actual client? Is there any view on that?
View as in
Company view? Do they hate them? Do they like them? I mean, is there a I pay you forever to rent my password vault or self-hosted option with Bitwarden?
there's a self-hosted option for Bitwarden.
Is there?
Yeah. There is free version of Bitwarden as well. So if you're just wanting for personal, from my understanding, there is not any negativity towards Vault Warden. It's just we don't support it. So if you're deploying that instance and using that solution, that's fine. We're just not going to help you with it. Right. So like we've had people in the community come and ask questions on our forums and stuff like that, and we just it's not our product. So
I was just curious. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions?
As somebody that uses Bitwarden on a daily basis, it's a phenomenal product. And I can tell you from practical experience and personal experience, I've had users lose their master password and then jump up and down and scream at me, and I just go, sorry.
Have you turned on account recovery?
No, but that's our company policy.
Okay.
If you lose your master password, sorry.
Yeah. That it's depending on everybody's environment is different. If it's an organization, you can turn on account recovery. If you can set up emergency access, if it's an individual type of situation. There's a lot of ways that you can set up recovery methods, backup codes for your individual vault, all kinds of stuff. What, Matthias? I can't focus now. You raised your hand.
Sorry. Can you show what account recovery looks like and then emergency access for the non-enterprise users?
I might be able to, this is my demo account. So emergency access is just under settings. If you're in the web vault, you can set up so that someone else, so let's say my personal individual vault, I want to make sure that if something happens to me, Matthias, who's my husband, can get into my vault and access all of our shared credentials. I can set this up and it's kind of got a dead man switch. So I will get a notification if he tries to log in and take over my account. Do you approve of this? This is happening. If nothing happens in a certain amount of time, assuming that I'm not able to respond, it'll grant him access to my account. From the admin side, we have the ability to, let's see here, nope, wrong button. Do account recovery under policies. We can turn this on. So as an admin, I can recover one of my users' master passwords, reset it, send them the temporary password, hopefully with like Bitwarden send. And then they can log in, reset their master password. And similarly with trusted devices, if they've lost their device and we're using trusted devices, we can then reset their account so that they can log back in.
Now, is this on the self-hosted option as well, or is this just
all of the
web?
features that exist in the cloud exist in the self-hosted option as well?
Okay.
From the user standpoint, they don't see anything. Oh, I lost my train of thought. From an admin side, we can reset their password just by going under those users and then recover account. So then we would be able to recover this person's account for them, reset their password, and then send them that password.
Cool. I'll definitely take that back with me and say, hey, well, let's enable it and give them a shot.
Just a caveat. If you have people who are already enrolled in your organization and you have not turned that on yet, you can turn it on. You have to turn it on manually. It's not a retroactive thing, but they can do that by clicking on the little options menu. I don't have one. There's an options menu next to the organization. Then they can select enroll in account recovery, but I don't have that on any of my demo account right now. Yeah, so, and in the help center, again, if you're looking for enroll in account recovery, where am I typing? There we go. Account recovery. I'm going to pull up an article on how to do that. All that's information on how it works, how to turn it on is all here in the help article. We even got screenshots on how to enroll down here. Yeah, so this is what I was looking for. That account or enroll in account recovery is what they'll have to manually turn on once you turn that policy on. Yeah, we tried to clean up our demo account. We had an example of what that looks like, but it was just really clunky and we wanted to make a cleaner experience. We literally just did that last week before I came, so yeah.
How much is Bitwarden for a BB license for a single user?
For a single user, I think it's still $10 a year. Yeah, it's like $10. It's so cheap. I still have a family's plan and I pay for it just because it's simple. I think it's $40 a year for 6 users, and my husband, myself, and my teenagers all have an organization, and so they're starting to look for jobs right now. And instead of sending their social security number through a text message, I just tell them, hey, it's in Bitwarden, or they need their login for their email account that I set up when they were 5. Things like that. We can share the Netflix password. It's super handy for families to use, and it's so cheap. But there's also the free version. So if you're just looking to store stuff and not share with anybody else, but the sharing feature is super solid, helpful, keeps people from sending information in plain text. Also, you can put TOTP codes in there. So if you have TOTP codes that you need to share with teammates, rather than who's getting this code to their phone or trying to figure out where that code's stored at, we can store that right in Bitwarden. It is. Any other questions? Oh, all the way in the back. Oh, sorry.
Can you explain a little bit how to set up an account for an organization as far as adding users to the business account?
Yeah, so you would just log into the admin console, and then we can go under members and invite them with their email. We would then choose what role we want them to have, whether it's just user, they access what they have access to, admin, obviously they can do some admin tasks. Owners get everything admins can do, but then with some billing and subscription tasks as well. And then we also have a custom role so that you can grant more granularly what you want that person to do. So if we have like a service desk user and we want them just to be able to do account recovery and maybe create new collections. We don't want them to do anything else, just these tasks. We can do that with that role, and then they get permission to do those things. We can add them to groups. When they're in those groups, then they can get access to the collections that are granted to those groups. We can also do SSO and SCIM provisioning. So if you've got Active Directory, you add that person to Active Directory, put them in a group, they're automatically assigned in Bitwarden and have an account. So there's a lot of different options depending on your situation. For adding a new user, just kind of depends on what you want to have that workflow look like.
So if you add a user, they'll get an email, so they have to create a new account.
Yep.
One problem that I noticed was if that user goes and creates a new password, it automatically puts it into their personal account that they just set up because they forget to choose to save it under the organization. Is there a way to default that?
There is. So yes and no. One thing that we've seen companies do, they've started to remove access to the individual vault, and then they force all of their users to use a collection under the organization that is only accessible by that user. So it's essentially an individual vault, but managed by the company. So that's one way you can force people to have to store everything in the organization. But it is super easy to just click on that thing you want to share and assign to collections. So if you wanted to create like a guide for your users when they're creating those new credentials, if they forget, this is how we can add it to then our organization.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because I've seen there was users that are making passwords, and if they rage quit tomorrow, that password will be gone because it's not part of the organization.
But if you turn on account recovery, you can reset their password and log into their vault. So that is another way to kind of counteract the rage quit. I no longer have access to these credentials, because you never know what your sysadmin might be saving in their individual vault that you need access to after they're gone, but nobody else needs it right now. But you can definitely recover those if you turn that feature on.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I have a question on, does it work with modern Entra ID? Because one problem we have is that there's thousands of identities that we have to manage, and frequently they're machine identities and they're people identities, and I don't know if you've ever worked with Azure, but they're all horrible UUIDs. And does it do any kind of auditing on that, or is it just for humans?
Auditing.
Like when you look at that product, is it mostly for human identities, or is it for machine and human identities?
On Entra or on Bitwarden?
Not on Bitwarden, but the product that actually does the inspector. What's that one? The third one you showed us. That wasn't Bitwarden, but like
Access Intelligence.
Yes, Access Intelligence.
I think everything's still in UUID, simply because if we have things that are named similarly, we want to be able to truly identify that thing.
Does it interrogate them though? Like it says, I've seen this login in the last 50 years or something? Or
That's a good question. Come see me and I will find an answer for you.
Great.
I actually have a question. How do you create a strong master password, and where do you store it?
In Bitwarden?
The master password for
in master password. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're creating your account, sorry, my brain, again, it's late in the afternoon. I am uncaffeinated at this point. So if you're wanting to create a master password and you're kind of stuck, we down here at the footer on our website have a password generator tool that you can use outside of the Bitwarden product, which can be helpful if you're trying to come up with something for your master password. And we can change it to passphrase. So that way it's something easier for your brain to remember. And you can change whether you want things capitalized, whether you want to include numbers, whether, what your word separator even is. So we can change it to period, whatever makes sense for you. And then we can regenerate as many times as we want. And that's kind of one thing that is helpful for people if they're stuck on what that master password is. If you're using a password manager like Bitwarden, you don't need to remember anything else. So you can retrain your brain to learn something a little more complex. But having multiple words and a couple of special characters that's more than 12 characters long is going to be the best. 12 characters is as short as Bitwarden will let you put that password for your master password. Does that answer your question? Perfect. Any other questions? These are great questions. All right, hold on one second. Yep. Yeah.
How about password importers for other password managers? I use mSecure.
Okay.
Is there an importer for that?
There is not a dedicated importer. So we do have, if you're importing your passwords from a solution, we have a list when you go under, let me go back here.
So pretty much CSV it and then import it that way?
Yep. We have a list on, nope, I don't want to click on that. This guy. So in here, tools, I'm in the wrong spot. Import data. If we want to find that solution that we're currently using, we can pick something. I'm just going to pick on Chrome because it's right here. We have instructions on how to export and then import, especially helpful for users if you're trying to help them get something out of it, like a browser-based password manager. If it doesn't exist, there is a CSV that you can condition to match what you're exporting out of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We do have a direct import to LastPass through the browser extension that you can then log into your account and it'll pull everything over.
I wouldn't use LastPass.
just for your knowledge. All right. So if you answered my trivia questions during today's session, come see me after the session so that I can grab your contact information and send you that $50 gift card to the Bitwarden shop, which is just bitwarden.com/shop. But we'll get you that information from our marketing team so that you can redeem and get your cool Bitwarden swag. Thank you.